Hello and welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. I hope you're all very well. Today I'm going to be talking about books that I would recommend for holiday reads. Now it's coming into holiday season, it's May, there's a blue sky today. I've got bright pink lipstick on. I've still got a long sleeve top on, guys, so it's not boiling, but it's definitely getting there. And this time of year, I always really enjoy people that I know in real life or people from that watch my booktube videos asking me what books I would recommend for summer holidays. And I've sort of pulled together 10 books in 5 different categories of books that I feel like people would enjoy on a summer holiday or would be a great summer holiday read. So we're just going to go straight into it. The first section is fun. So I just want books that are going to be fun for people to read on holiday, that are going to be enjoyable, that are going to pass time, and that you're going to read with a smile on your face. And the 2 books that I've picked are both favourite books of mine. The first one is Big Bones by Laura Dockrell. This is a book that I've raved about all year so far. I read it earlier on this year in February. It is about a body positive 16-year-old girl called Bluebell who is asthmatic and goes to the doctors, and they tell her to keep a food diary. Now, Bluebell's a big girl. She doesn't care that she's a big girl. She's very much fond of her body and herself, and she writes a food diary using all different types of food. So, for instance, like Mars bar, cinnamon, and each little chapter, which is entitled with a different food, represents something that's either happened in her life or something that's happening at the moment, and you're just hearing about a teenager's life from a really fun and funny point of view. Laura Dockrell is a hilarious writer. I was lucky enough to meet Laura at the Lush Book Club earlier on this, was it last month? Last month I met her, and she is just so much fun, and that really comes through. And if there's one book I'm going to urge people to read this summer, this is the book. So this is, I'm going big, guys. I'm going big with the first book, and that is Big Bones, Laura Dockrell, for summer. And also it's paperback. Who doesn't love a paperback on holiday? I've really tried to steer away from hardbacks because I know, like, when you're sat at the pool and things like that, or if you're on a plane or things, you just want a light book, and it's paperback. The next one is one that I'm sure many people have read, and that is Bridget Jones's Diary by Helen Fielding. This is the Picador 20th anniversary edition. I'm very fond of this. I love Bridget Jones's Diary. It's a book that I've read and reread so many times throughout my life, and I'm definitely due a reread of it. I reread it last year and loved it, and actually put it in my favourite books of last year. As I said, I've reread it many times, and each time I reread it, I get a little bit more from it. It is about Bridget Jones, who is a 30-something single woman living in London in, I would say, probably, I think it's like the late, no, oh, it is, so in 96 this was published, and she is trying to get herself in a relationship. She's trying to further her career. She's also trying to deal with the breakup of her mum and dad, and it is just hilarious. It's all told in diary entries. Each diary entry starts with things like how many fags she smoked and how much booze she's drunk and things like that, and she is just hilarious. Bridget Jones's mother is one of the most comical characters I think I've ever come across in books. Like, there are very few books that can get me actually chortling aloud, and this book did it. I love it. It's fun. It's really transporting. It won't take you long to read because it is so many diary entries and things like that. And every time I read it, I just find something else in it that I love. And yeah, it's an all-time fave for me, and complete fun, and I have so much fun when I'm reading it. So that's why it's in the fun section. The next section. Now, where do I put these books as I'm finishing these sections? We'll leave them there. I bet they fall off. The next section is books that you can read in a day or in one sitting and things like that. I've picked 2. The first one is a hardback, but it's a very slim hardback, and it's The Standing Chandelier by Lionel Shriver. This was one that I got for Christmas. I got a Secret Santa last year. David got it for me after very many hints. And this is a novella. It's just over 100 pages long. It's 122 pages, and it is about 2 friends, Gillian and Weston, who have been friends for many years. Gillian doesn't have many female friends. She's very much friends with male people, and Gillian and Weston's friendship has sort of slipped into romance or a sexual relationship on 2 occasions. Weston is now getting married, and Weston Weston's wife-to-be doesn't want him to have anything to do with Gillian anymore. The title of the book, The Standing Chandelier, relates to a piece of artwork that Gillian has been working on for many, many, many years. And in order to prove to Weston and his wife-to-be how much she supports their relationship, she gifts this massive piece of artwork, The Standing Chandelier, to them, which the wife then has something, she's unhappy about that because they've then got this reminder of Gillian in their life every single day. I've only read 2 Lionel Shriver books, this book and The Post-Birthday World, both of which I read last year and adored both of them. She writes such unlikable characters, and you're still rooting for them, and I read this in one day, just in between Christmas and New Year last year, and I just feel like it's a great holiday read, really like great literary work, and yeah, if you're looking for something slightly different, real, like there's not loads going on in here, but there's so much character work, and yeah, just as a sort of like one day, you could do that on a plane journey, you could do that on the beach, and yeah, I've just feel like this is really, really great writing, and I really, really love this. And then the next one is one that you could also finish in a sitting, and that is One by Sarah Crossan. Now also, I would also like to recommend Moonrise by Sarah Crossan, which is a book that I have read this year. One I read last year, and this was a reread. I've read this twice. Sarah Crossan writes in verse, so every single chapter is done in the style of a poem, but that, when I first looked at it, I was like, I'm not going to get on with that at all. I absolutely did get on with it and loved it. One is about a set of conjoined twins, Tippy and Grace. They're teenagers, and you read about their lives as just teenagers, but you also read about their lives as conjoined twins, and how they deal with certain situations that they're put in because they're conjoined twins. For example, do they both do the things that either one likes? They're 2 separate people, they've got 2 separate personalities, what are they going to do? And also there is some heartbreak and horrificness in here, as they go upon their as you read through the book. They have recently, their family has come into some money worries and troubles, and they decide to sort of sell their story and be filmed for a TV documentary. So they're also dealing with that, as well as friendships and relationships and their health. But it is so compelling, and I just couldn't stop reading. And what I couldn't believe is how much feeling is got. Like, this is not, although this looks like a normal size paperback, this has got half the words in as a normal size paperback, because some of the chapters are just like this, like that's not, so it's not pages of words, but it's just so, there's so much in there. And as I mentioned earlier, I also read Moonrise by Sarah Crossan this year, which is about a young lad, Joe. It's written in the same style. And Joe is going to, Joe's brother is on death row, and he's going to go and visit his brother and sort of get a, just have a relationship with him in the days leading up to his what do they call it? Death, I guess. Yeah, like, well, I don't know if there's a special word for that. On the days leading up to his death. Again, so like she picks some really hard hitting topics, but manages to get them across with like respect and a bit of laughter and sadness. And yeah, these are really quick readable books, and you could definitely, if you wanted to go on holiday and you're not much of a reader and you wanted to go on holiday and finish one book, then this book I would recommend, because you will definitely get that finished in 1 week, and it's something completely different as well in terms of, I'd never read anything in verse before, so yeah. The next section is transporting, something that you're going to open the book wherever you are on holiday and you're going to completely forget everything else is around you. So you might, these may not be books that you want to take on holiday with you, but if you're having a bit of a staycation or something and you want something, you want to be able to escape into a book, these 2 books are books that when I was reading them I didn't know anything else that was going on around me, and completely transporting and completely immersive, wonderful reads. The first one is Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. I read this book many I say many years ago, probably about 4 years ago. We read it for my online book club. It was one of the first books that we read. Kate Atkinson, I love her writing. I love how she makes the ordinary extraordinary. She's just fantastic. And this book, although following a woman's life, which you would think would be ordinary, it is telling the story of a woman who, when she dies, she comes back to life again. So you start off very, very quickly, because to begin with I was like, what on earth is going on here? So you start off, the first part of the story is November 1930, she's born, But it is in a it's in a snowstorm, and they can't get any help to come out and help her mother, and she dies as soon as she's born. And then you go on to the next time when she's reborn, and there is a snowstorm, but they've managed to get help, so she lives that time. And then each time she lives a little bit longer in her life. And then you hear about all the different ways that her life could have taken turns, and it involves quite big historical events, which I was really, really surprised to find in there. Her writing is amazing. I couldn't stop thinking about ways, like what would have happened if I'd have taken a certain choice in my life, or what I would have done if I'd have had the choices that she'd have got, and how she could do things differently, or how I could have done things differently. And I really, really love this. Now there is a book that runs alongside of this, which talks about the main character's brother, which is called A God in Ruins, and I'm still yet to read that, so I feel like that is going to be one of my books that I read this summer. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh my god, I must read it, because I just love this so much. But there's also the fear of reading that and not loving it as much as I love this. But this is completely transporting. It's quite a long read, so I feel like it's just long enough for you to be like dipping in and out of it and just having a great time with it. So yeah, Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. And then the next one is one that I've read this year, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it or talking about it since I've read it. Now, I know I said earlier there wasn't going to be many hardbacks, but this is the only big hardback that I've involved, and that is Almost Love by Louise O'Neill. Louise O'Neill is primarily a YA author. I've read all her books now. I'm actually reading her most recent book at the moment. She's written books Only Ever Yours, Asking For It, and at the moment I'm reading The Surface Breaks, which is a feminist retelling of The Little Mermaid. This book, Almost Love, is her first adult novel, and it is about a woman who is in a relationship, if you can even call that, with a man who's 20 years her senior, and he treats her like shit. And I could recognise so many aspects of myself, the way that Sarah, the main character, was being treated by this chap that she was having a relationship with, and just how she sort of let everything else in her life fall by the wayside. It made for really tough reading for me in some parts, because as I said, I could recognise a lot of myself in this, but it was just so all encompassing and immersive, and I was just so concerned for Sarah throughout. Now, what I also like about Louise O'Neill, in the same way that I like in Lydell Shriver's book, is that her characters aren't particularly likeable. In the YA novel Asking For It, which follows a character who is raped by a number of people, the main character in that, the girl who is raped, she's horrible, but it just she doesn't wrap things up in cotton wool and make things really sickly sweet, and she's not afraid to make unlikable characters and have these things happen to them, and you still feel remorse for them. I really, really like this, and I've been really making people read it and having like really in-depth chats about it with people, and just how easily Sarah fell into this relationship with someone that she wasn't even that bothered about. And then before you know it, she's absolutely hooked on him, and he treats her terribly, and she makes excuses for him all the time. And there's also things in here to do with like text messages and stuff, which I really like, a bit of like multimedia different things, and like chapters of her just texting him and him not texting back. And yeah, I just feel like it's really familiar, and I think everyone would find a bit of themselves in a book like this, but completely immersive. And when I was reading it, I just didn't really know anything else that was going on around me, because I was just so hooked on it. So yeah, that's Almost Love by Louise O'Neill. And then my next section is audiobooks. So I listen to audiobooks on the Audible app. Audible is a company that's owned by Amazon, and I pay, I think it's $7.99 a month to have an audiobook to listen to. Now, every time you keep those audiobooks forever, even if you leave Audible, even if you cancel your subscription, those audiobooks belong to you. So it's a real good value, because audiobooks can be really, really pricey, and I do love to listen to an audiobook. Now, I mainly listen to audiobooks when I'm driving on the way home from work, but I've also been known to sort of like listen to them if I'm just sat here maybe doing a bit of cross stitch or something like that. But if you're potentially not looking to read an actual book when you're on holiday, then an audiobook might be something you're interested in. And two that I've listened to so far this year and absolutely adored are, the first one is Eleanor, Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. This is a fiction book about a character, Eleanor, who is She lives alone. She works in an office, and on a Friday evening when she gets off the bus, she says goodbye to the bus driver and she doesn't talk to anybody else until she gets back to work on Monday morning. It's a real in-depth study on loneliness and people living lives that you have no idea about. Eleanor witnesses an old man take a fall in the street with whilst one of her work colleagues is there as well, and after this they form a friendship, and Eleanor hasn't had friendships before, so it's really interesting to see how Eleanor sees these friendships and how matter-of-fact she is about these things, because these are all new to her. And when you listen to her, well, I listen to it, so when you listen to when you read about Eleanor's experiences, you see them with real fresh eyes and in a way that you've probably never viewed friendships or relationships before. The audiobook I was particularly fond of because the woman who narrates it just did such a fantastic job. The book is set in Glasgow. Eleanor isn't Glaswegian, but the people around her are, and I feel like she did the accent so wonderfully, and there was so much differentiation between different characters, and there's real highs in this book, but there's also real lows, and she was just able to convey that so wonderfully, and I really love this book. I gave it 5 stars, and it's really stayed with me, and I feel like it's going to be one book that I'm going to remember for a really long time. And Eleanor is completely unforgettable as a character. I really loved her, and I've also bought this book for quite a few people, so I loved it, and I would really recommend the audiobook, but I know the paperback is out at the moment as well. And then the second audiobook that I've listened to is one that I've listened to quite recently, and that is The Trauma Cleaner by Sarah Krasnowstein. Sarah Krasnowstein, Sarah Krasnowstein has written a memoir of a woman called Sandra, who is a trauma cleaner, which means that she cleans up from road traffic accidents, murders. If people have died in a house, she goes and sorts out everything there. She does a lot to deal with hoarders and things like that. And you hear about Sandra's life now as a trauma cleaner, and the cases she has to do, and how she has to deal with a wide variety of people, from people in the services to people who've got mental health issues, and what she's like. And then you also hear about Sandra's life growing up and to the point she's at now. And Sandra was born a male and had a really troubled childhood when she was a young boy named Peter, and then her sort of realising that she'd been born in the wrong body and transitioning to become a woman, and the things that she has seen in her life are just amazing. I really loved this as a memoir. I thought it was amazing, and it was one that every night I was looking forward to driving home, because I could hear a little bit more of Sandra's life and how fantastic and strong a woman she was. I love books about strong women anyway, and this was just a complete treat. So yeah, I really love this one, and again, it's one that I've really been thinking about. All of these books are ones that are books that I've really thought about for a long time afterwards. So yeah, that's my last audiobook recommendation. So the next 2 are books that I have not read yet, but I am planning on reading myself this summer. The first one is, I've got a proof here of The Summer House by Philip Tier. This is, I don't often read books set in summer, so this feels like the perfect time to read this, would be in the summer. It says here that this is the Scandi summer read of 2018. However, it's set on the west coast of Finland, where a family, Eric and Julia and their children, spend their summer. And somebody commented on a video before and said that Finland isn't in Scandinavia. Can you please confirm if that is? Because they're marketing this all wrong if that's the case. So from the outside, they're a young, happy family, and they look like they're looking forward to a long holiday together. But when you look closer, all is not what it seems. It says here, Eric has lost his job, but he hasn't yet told the family. A moose is found dead in the wood, mysteriously trapped in a tree, and the arrival of Julia's childhood friend Marika, along with her charismatic husband Chris, the leader of the group of environmental activists, deepens the hairline cracks that had so far remained invisible. So yeah, so it says here that it's a book for fans of Annie Proulx and Patchett, who I haven't read books by, but I've heard very good things, and Tove Jansson. So yeah, and I really like this. This has got like a little front cover on it, but it's yeah, yeah, I'm very fond, very much looking forward to that. And then the last book is one that I'm actually going on holiday next weekend, so I'm not sure when this video is going up, but I'm going on holiday shortly to Dorset with some booktubers, and this book is completely booktube endorsed. I was one Friday night, I just watched a video of Mercedes where she mentioned it, and then I was on Instagram, and Sophie from Portal in the Pages and Liv from the Book Nook had both put a picture up of it, and I was like, I need to buy this book, and that is I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This is a true crime book, and it is an account of the Golden State Killer, who was an elusive serial rapist turned murderer who terrorized California for over a decade. Michelle McNamara, she died before she was able to finish this book, and recently the Golden State Killer has been caught, which has led to a lot of hype and excitement around this book. I don't read much true crime, but when I was listening to Mercedes talk about this, and when I was reading the comments beneath Liv and Sophie's photos that they posted, I was just like, I need to read this. This sounds like it's going to be all immersive and gripping and fucking horrible, but amazing. So yeah, so I'm going to start reading that next weekend, or when I am on holiday. So those are the books that I would recommend for summer holiday reads 2018. Let me know if you've got any books that you love to read on a holiday, or if you've got any holidays planned and what you're planning on reading, and let me know if you're interested in reading any of these books, because I really would love to hear if this has been useful to you. And have a lovely summer holiday. I'll see you again, obviously. I'm still making videos, guys, and I'll see you all again soon for another BookTube video. Goodbye!